iPhone 8 versus iPhone 8 Plus versus iPhone 10. In this video, you're going to learn which one is the best one for you in 2018. That's coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the iPhone 8 versus the 8 Plus versus the iPhone 10. Now, I'm not going to talk much about specifications in this video. I'm sure you're already aware of them. 2 gigabytes of RAM, 3 gigabytes of RAM, 3 gigabytes of RAM, A11s across the board. They all basically have the same camera, just the 8 Plus and the iPhone 10 have the portrait modes, the 10 having the portrait mode on the front. What I really want to talk about here is my experience and thoughts about all of them. So if you guys are trying to decide, I don't know, should I get an 8 Plus? Should I get an 8? Should I get a 7 Plus? You can decide one of these newer phones is for you. So let's begin with the build quality and design. So first of all, on the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 Plus, and the 10, they all give you a similar glass rear. However, the iPhone 10 is a little bit shinier than both of those, and that makes sense. They have to do just a little bit more polish to make it seem like it's worth that $1,000 asking price for the iPhone 10. So it just has a little bit more gleam inside the body than these other more duller glass finishes here on the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 8. So overall, though, the build on the sides on the iPhone 8 is going to give you that similar aluminum you're used to from prior editions on the iPhone 8. No headphone jack here, and just similar all around to iPhone 7 and 7 Plus when it comes to the size. Just a smokier gray color look. Now on the 8 Plus, it's the same story. Along the sides, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference at all between this and a 7 Plus or an 8 or a 6S Plus. But what you will notice the difference is between all of these phones is that the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus are heavier. So in my experience, they feel quite a bit chunkier and heavier than prior editions, maybe lending to a more premium feel with the combination of a little bit more heft and glass. They feel a little bit more substantial in the hand. So over here on the iPhone 10, this one is right around a good balance of weight, I think, between these two. So if you're looking for a good balance of weight, you're going to like the iPhone 10. This one has a solid weight, not too heavy, not too light. And this one has stainless steel edges, which do scratch much easier than these two guys. So keep that in mind on the build quality front. If you are buying iPhone 10, this one scratches around the sides, but you know, it's kind of looks cool over time. It kind of wears in, lets you know you've been using your phone quite nicely. So it's going to depend on how OCD you are with stuff. But for me, it doesn't really bother me too much just because I know that I'm using the phone then and what I paid for over time. But if you're really like, I want my phone to be pristine, super mint for the longest time, the iPhone 10 is questionable because these will scratch no matter which color you do go with. So overall, that's pretty much the build quality. They all have very strong glass. It is going to be quite a bit of money if you guys do crack any of the screens on these guys. They have raised the prices to fix screens at Apple, but if you go third party, I'm sure you can find it cheaper. However, all of them are pretty good quality build. The iPhone 8 Plus being the heaviest, the iPhone 8 being the lightest, the iPhone 10 feeling the most premium, I think, and also the best balance of weight here on the table. Next up, let's talk a little bit about design instead of just build quality. So on the design front, you will get an iPhone 6 design here for the iPhone 8, slightly more like the iPhone 7, actually, no antenna lines here. And I think it looks pretty classic now since the iPhone 6 is about, 4 years old already. The iPhone 8 Plus is a refinement over the 7 Plus, and its design is rather large, and I think it looks pretty nice overall as well. It's definitely looking a little bit behind some of the Android competition though, like the Note 8 and the S8 and some of those 18:9 panel displays, but it's conservative. It reminds me of the iPhone 8 Plus reminds me a lot of like an Audi, a really conservative look versus like maybe a Nissan or maybe like a GTR or a Tesla, something that really stands out with its non-conservative look, really in your face kind of look. That's kind of how I would do the car analogy for the 8 Plus. It's like the conservative look, the old comfy plush sedan, if you will, like the Passat or something like that. Now the iPhone 10 though really tries to stand out. So this would be like, to me, this would be like the Infiniti, the Tesla, the Ferrari, those cars that are really bold, Lamborghini, the ones that are in your face. That's the iPhone 10. And this design right here is questionable. Again, it's, a lot of people aren't going to like it. A lot of people will like it, but I could tell you overall, the design does wear on you over time. When you first get it, that notch is a little bit annoying, but you do get used to it and then you forget about it's there, and then you start enjoying how this screen goes almost all the way down to the bottom of this display. So on the design front, I do think of these on the table that the iPhone 10 might be the best for people who just want purely aesthetic pleasing design, but I think personally that the most practical everyday design is going to be the iPhone 8 Plus. It gives you the largest screen here, and it also gives you pretty much everything the iPhone 10 offers sans Face ID. Okay, so let's break down displays in 2018. What do I think so far after using all of these phones since launch in terms of displays? Now, the iPhone 8 over here, you know, if I get really close to this display, I can see pixels on the iPhone 8. This is the lowest resolution of the bunch here with the iPhone 8. And like I say, if you put on the zoom mode, you can definitely see some pixels on this display, which is rather odd because Retina's not supposed to show that. But I was able to see it, and that's probably just because I'm used to looking at 2K panels. Now, if you're not used to looking at 2K panels, you might not even notice this for the 8. But the 8, definitely lowest resolution here and definitely the least vibrant, in my opinion, of all of these. The 8 Plus is rather similar as well to this display, but it goes up to 1920 by 1080p, so you don't see pixels at all on the iPhone 8 Plus. So the 8 Plus to me has a really nicely balanced P3 color gamut display. You can tweak it with color filters and accessibility settings. You can do that on all the iPhones, but the iPhone 8 Plus, really sharp panel with its 1080p resolution, 401 ppi on this bad boy, and it really doesn't matter after like 400 pixels per inch. You really can't see pixels, but in the 300s I could still see pixels, which is why I could see pixels on the iPhone 8. Now, all these do have True Tone, so that really makes the display really cool because it kind of changes based on your ambient conditions, meaning that if you're in the dark, it'll adjust the temperature of the display to make it a little bit warmer to match your eyes and not make your eyes hurt as much when you're using these displays. So all these displays are really good for people who have bad eyes because they have True Tone technology built right in. Now, the iPhone 10 does have a very punchy display in comparison to those two, but Apple did their best to calibrate it and tweak it down to feel like it's almost like any other iPhone you've ever seen before. And in my experience, I felt that's pretty much true. However, it still has that PWM. If you can't see it, it's like a post-width modulation. Basically, all that tech mumbo jumbo means is that there's a little flicker behind the display when you do see it through a camera lens. You can't see it right now. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't, but it can potentially lead to headaches and straining your eyes. So you might want to keep that in mind. You might want to try it out maybe for a week, return it if it's starting to hurt you or giving you a headache. But that's a really rare case. Like 10% of people have it, 10% of users have it. Don't quote me on the exact number. It's somewhere around there. But the display on the whole is the most vibrant and the one that'll stand out the most in the store. And I think if you're looking for the most long-term display, you probably want to get the iPhone 10 because they're going to move to OLED on most of the iPhones. But if you really like LCD technology, you got to get the 8 Plus of these three. Okay, so let's talk about software here between all three devices. Now, the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and 10 all run the same exact software, iOS 11.2.5, and they will all be updated for years to come. Now, if you want to know exactly what my experience has been like on all of them, I could tell you right now that the 8 and the 10 have given me a little bit more glitch and lag than the 8 Plus. For some reason, the 8 Plus seemed to run it the best. And maybe that's because it has the A11, 3 gigs of RAM, and it has, a 1920 display. It seems like a very well, balanced, mixture of specs as well as power on the iPhone 8 Plus. So I've had the best experience when it comes to raw performance on the 8 Plus. Now the 10 would be second runner up and then would be the iPhone 8. Now, one thing I want to mention about the 10 is that it feels a little bit smoother when it comes to opening applications and scrolling, but in terms of sheer power, the 8 Plus all day. In terms of software though, the experience is just much different. We all know on the 10 versus the 8 and the 8 Plus. And I would say if you want a classic iPhone of these three, you're going to want to go with one of these guys. But if you want the new, redesigned gesture-based OS, it's the iPhone 10. I think that in terms of software, to have a really new change, a new feeling, I would recommend the 10 of these three. But if you want your classic iPhone experience, again, I'm going to go with 8 Plus here on this one. And it's not just because I'm being biased towards the 8 Plus. The 8 Plus gives you landscape mode, which you don't get on the 8. So at least you have something on the 8 Plus that you don't get on the 10 or the 8. So we can flip this over into landscape mode. You also have split menus that make it feel more like an iPad in certain applications, whereas the iPhone 8 is just purely a portrait phone. You can't move it around. You do have reachability on both of these guys. So if you ever do need that and they're too large, you can do that. But the iPhone 8 Plus offers that landscape and the iPhone 10 doesn't. The 8 Plus also gives you zoom mode just like the 8. So the software experience is really refined and feature rich to me on the 8 Plus of these three. But again, if you're looking for the most changed, the most modern, the most different, you want something new, you're going to want to try the iPhone 10. Okay, so let's talk about battery life between all three of these devices. Now, the iPhone 8 has the award for being the best, comeback kit of the year. The prior edition of the iPhone 8 was not that good on battery life, the iPhone 7, but this one has drastically improved. You get about an hour more battery life than you did on that prior phone. That probably has to do a lot with the efficiency of the new processor, but I would say the iPhone 8 is a fantastic option for a small phone with battery life. However, there is a clear winner on this table, and I'm sure you guessed it. It's the iPhone 8 Plus. The iPhone 8 Plus has been stellar when it comes to the battery life, and a lot of iPhone 8 Plus users, I'm sure, will attest to this down below in the comment section of this video, but I found this phone to last the longest of the three. Now, I was also pretty impressed with the iPhone 10. The 10 is not the best on the table, but it's gotten better over my use case over using it. It actually lasts pretty much longer than the iPhone 8. It lasts a good 30 minutes to an hour longer than the iPhone 8, sometimes even more. So it's a good balance between these two in battery life. Not the best, but still getting you through a day quite easily on a 10. So that's nice to see that a first generation product has some pretty solid battery life. We never want to see a brand new product have, cheap battery life. So I'm going to say the winner here on battery life. If you're looking for the best battery life, you want the iPhone 8 Plus. Even over my usage since launch day, it's still reigning supreme here. If you want a good balance of battery life, but you want a good balance of battery life and design, you want the iPhone 10. And if you still like the classic iPhone, you've always been itching for a smaller iPhone that just has a little bit better battery life than the iPhone 6, 6S, and 7, the 8 does that for you. Okay, so let's get on to the camera quality between all these devices. I'm sure you've all seen iPhone pictures, so I'm not going to show a gallery of pictures here on these guys. Really, all we need to talk about here is software, because they virtually have the same cameras on all of them, 12 megapixel iSight cameras here. Now, in terms of my experience using them, the iPhone 8 is the most simple experience. There's no portrait mode. It's classic iPhone. Pull it out, snap a photo. You got a few features here, slow-mo, panorama. We know what to do with this camera. One thing that really annoys me about all of these iPhones, though, is that you have to go into settings to change camera settings. So I go to settings. I got to scroll all the way down. Where is it at? I got to find camera, change the record video in here. They need to really include this in the settings. So this is an annoyance with all of them here. You could do 4K 60 on all devices. I'm not going to show it on those devices because it's the same thing. Going in the record video, you can do 1080 at 240. So the iPhone 8 offers all the basic camera functions you need with the addition of the high-end 4K 60, and it's very simple. Now, on the 8 Plus, I find it to be a little bit large, but if you like a large viewfinder when you are recording, this is a great video phone because you get this large viewfinder to do some video on, and then you go into your LumaFusion, and you have this spacious display to edit on iMovie or LumaFusion. So this is a great phone for the video editors out there. I think the iPhone 8 is a great phone for the photo takers out there, and for those people who want the absolute feature rich, the best of the best Apple has to offer when it comes to the camera, that's the iPhone 10. It's going to give you portrait modes on the rear and the front, and it's going to take a little bit of learning to learn how to use all of those. So if you're ambitious and you want to learn all the new stuff and you want the absolute best camera iPhone offers right now, that's the iPhone 10 over here on the right. Now, sometimes because the display is OLED, it's going to look a little bit less natural than it did on the LCD panels, which tend to look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more natural. So it's going to look a little weird if you're used to an LCD phone to take pictures on the iPhone 10 and then to view them on the iPhone 10, because that OLED color is just a little bit different than LCD. So keep that in mind. It doesn't mean your pictures are bad or they're just a little bit off in color. It's just the color of the display on OLED is just very different. So, MacBook users, iPad users, you're going to see that difference, but still, on the whole, the iPhone 10 offers the best camera here on the table for me. Let's talk about audio. So all of these do offer one of the best things that you can ever ask for on a phone, and that is front-facing audio. So you have front-facing audio over here, over here, over here. Now, there's a clear winner here in terms of sound. The iPhone 10 to me has sounded the loudest of all of these phones in my use case. So no matter what you're doing on this thing, it's super loud. on the iPhone 10. The 8 Plus is darn near close to it, about the same. And the iPhone 8 is definitely the weakest of these three when it comes to the speakers, but it's not weak. It's still very loud. Now, these are like probably within a few decibels of each other, but I find that the richest sound always comes from the iPhone 10. So let's play a little song here. I mean, that thing is just loud. For a phone, the iPhone 10 is almost like having a Bluetooth speaker on you at all times. So is the iPhone 8 Plus. The 8 Plus slightly lower in volume to me. And then the iPhone 8 is right around, you know, a little bit lower than the 8 Plus, but close. But the best here on the table for audio has been the iPhone 10 in my experience. So what about phone calling on all of these? So the most comfortable of these threes when it comes to phone calling is the iPhone 8. This phone is just classic iPhone. It's a phone. It feels, you know, the most comfortable to grip, hold, and put up to your ear. Now, the one that's probably the best in terms of sound, I find, has been the 8 Plus in my calling experience. And then the iPhone 10 is quite close to both of them. It has pretty great reception. And none of these are bad when it comes to phone call quality. The iPhone having horrible phone call quality, you know, that's a thing of the past. That was the past. The iPhone 10 has no reception issues. Neither does these two. So whether you get the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, iPhone 10, you're going to have a great calling experience. But because the speakers are loudest on the iPhone 10, speakerphone callers, you're going to want the iPhone 10. And then people who like to listen through the ear, you're going to want the iPhone 8. And if you don't care about the size and you don't care about putting a big old phone to your face, the iPhone 8 Plus will do the job as well. So they're all pretty even on this front. I would still just pick the iPhone 10 for speakerphone, you know, benefits though. Okay, we're done with most of the technical stuff of these three devices. Let's talk about some factors that I'm going to throw in here. Number one is the portability factor. Which one wins the portability factor? Now, you might think right away, oh, it's the iPhone 8. And no, actually the iPhone 8 doesn't win the portability factor, and I'm going to tell you why. So yes, it is the lightest phone here. It does have the smallest screen here, but I'm giving the portability factor to the iPhone 10, and here's why. It's only slightly heavier at 30 grams more, so it's not going to feel that much larger. My sister actually had an SE. She went to an iPhone 10, hasn't complained one bit, and you get a large screen in a portable factor. So I think the portability factor has to go to the iPhone 10 because you can lug around a lighter phone than the 8 Plus, but you still get a very large screen in the iPhone 10. It's not like as large and spacious as the 8 Plus, but still offers more than the 8, and it's not that much heavier, and it's almost the same size. So I'm giving the iPhone 10 the win when it comes to the portability factor. Now, which phone do I give the win for the travel factor? And the best phone for travel, in my opinion, is the iPhone 8 Plus. And let me tell you why the iPhone 8 Plus is the best for travel. Now, when you're traveling, you're not always going to have the ability to get to an outlet right away. And you might be on the road for long hours, and you need a spacious display to catch up on some of your TV shows, YouTube, whatever you're watching on your phone, reading. And this phone provides a large spacious display with the best battery life for travel. So this is the phone I would take for travel. If you travel a lot, the 8 Plus is going to be a fantastic option for you. Now, I'm really a productivity person, and I want to throw in the productivity factor here. And for productivity factor, I'm going to have to give it to the 8 Plus once again. The 8 Plus wins the productivity factor crown because of the landscape view, because of the split menus, the large spacious display. When you are doing a lot of emailing, when you're doing a lot of note taking, this is the phone you want because it's just got these nice bezels to grip onto right here, and you just go ahead and type and do everything just like a little iPad. So while iPads are not that productive in comparison to PCs, none of these phones flip in the landscape, and for that reason alone, I think the iPhone 8 Plus does win the productivity factor, as well as having the best battery life, because productivity can definitely drain some battery life on all three devices. Okay, and the last one is the camera factor. Now, I did give the iPhone 10 the overall win for best camera, and it does win that. But if there's one phone I'm taking out to take some photos and take some pictures, it's probably going to be the iPhone 8, just because it's simple, lightweight, and it's very noticeable. I don't like when a camera or a phone is large because people can notice that you're taking pictures, and sometimes you want to get those shots where you're not supposed to be taking those shots. And basically, the iPhone 8 gives you that smallest body of the bunch. Again, I'm not contradicting and saying that it's the best camera. It's not. But if there's one camera I would take out just for some portability factor, that would be the iPhone 8. but the 10 is very close. So if you still want the best camera on an iPhone, I still recommend the 10. But for the camera factor, just going out and taking a quick shoot, I like the iPhone 8 in that regard. Pricing. Well, we all know who's the winner here in terms of lowest price, but lowest price is really a perspective. I mean, one person might be able to afford one phone, one person might be able to afford another phone. And, you know, depending on what your budget is, where you're at in your life, you might be able to buy any one of these phones or only one of them. The iPhone 8 is going to win on the lowest price, and then the iPhone 10 is going to win on the highest price. And there's a clear demand for premium phones. So a lot of people that are saying, oh, that phone's too much, 20 million people don't agree. So I don't think that anything is too much. If you really desire it, make it happen. You'll love what you do manifest. So the iPhone 10 to me is the highest price phone here in terms of sheer value, because this is the lowest price, this is the highest price. Also, a lot of the features that the iPhone 8 Plus gives you that the 8 and 8 or the 10 doesn't give you, I think the best value in terms of pricing is the 8 Plus. So if you're buying a phone and you're gonna pay, you know, $700 to $1,000 on here, $700 to $1,000, right in the middle, and it gives you the best battery life, you know, really refined experience, perfectly sharp display. That's the iPhone 8 Plus. So best value on the table to me is the iPhone 8 Plus. Conclusions, which one should you buy? I know you guys been waiting for it this whole video. You probably want to know, like, which one should I buy? And, you know, when people ask that question, it really is a very difficult question to answer because everyone has their own likes and tastes. Let me break it down for you here. If you're on a budget, you want the cheapest iPhone here, and you're not willing to sacrifice performance and camera and stuff like that, get yourself the iPhone 8. You're going to be very happy with this device. It is going to feel a little bit old and dated though. It's not going to feel like nothing revolutionary. It's just going to feel like a premium version of what we already had with Apple. Now, the iPhone 8 Plus is for those users who didn't like the iPhone 10 design. They want to get one more run at that classic iPhone design, but they want the best Apple can offer with that classic design. That is the iPhone 8 Plus. So if you're looking for a great phone, but you didn't like the iPhone 10, I recommend getting this one in 2018. It might be updated to a larger phone later this year, but you could easily just sell this for a pretty high price and just get the new one when it does come out. So iPhone 8 Plus, battery life lovers, you want this one as well. And landscape view lovers, it's the last phone to offer that here. So that's the 8 Plus. The iPhone 10 is for longtime iOS users who are bored with the experience. They want to change. They want something different. They've had enough of the home button. They just want something totally radically different and new. You're on the cutting edge of technology. You really care about new design and all that stuff. That's the iPhone 10. This is also for people who want the most premium, the head-turning phone, the phone you walk out in public and people are going to be like, hey, that guy's got the iPhone 10. Hey, that girl's got the iPhone 10. That's an amazing phone. I want that phone. That's this phone right here. So keep that in mind when you are buying these devices. And that's pretty much how I would sum it up. But which one would I take if I only had one choice? I would take the iPhone 8 Plus here if I only had one choice between all three of these, because the iPhone 10 is an amazing device, but it definitely gets a little bit annoying sometimes with the new gestures, and I find this one to be the easiest on my eyes. So personally for me, this doesn't mean it's for you. You can look at the other points I mentioned in this video. I would personally pick the iPhone 8 Plus. But that's it for me here. iPhone 8 versus iPhone 8 Plus versus iPhone 10 2018, which to buy. That's the end of this video. Which one would you guys buy? Would it be the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 Plus, or the iPhone 10? I'd like to hear from you guys down below. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. I will catch you all in the next one, and peace.